Hello, everyone. Welcome to the April 2026 edition of the Agile Austin Product and AI SIG. Today, very excited to have Jason Tanner with us, who's going to be talking about development of sustainably profitable products, which is a really interesting topic for right now. I'm going to have my copy of the book, which I bought when it came out, one of the most unique books I bought in probably the last 5 years. It was an interesting time because it was sort of rapid expansion 2012 2022, and he and Luke wrote this book about profitable products, and all of a sudden the world returned on its head. It has turned on its head multiple times in some of our careers to say, hey, profit is important, not just business value, but profit's really important to have a sustainable business. So very excited. I've been hoping to reach out, and he said yes. Very cool today to talk with Jason, and just a little bit about Agile Awesome. Here's our mission. We've been around for a long time, almost 20 years, I think. Here's the board of directors. There's actually an election right now. If you are a member, you will see a ballot, and we're looking for new folks to join the board of directors. You can sponsor. We've got lots of great sponsors, and you got a membership. You don't have to be a member to come, but there are some benefits that come along with membership. There are six kind of regularly meeting special interest groups. This is Product and AI, the one on the bottom left. We used to be mostly in Austin with in-person meetings, and now we're all over not only the country of the United States, but over the world. And Jason is here from Munich today. We have a couple of sponsors. Agile Velocity has been a platinum sponsor for probably over a decade at this point. ResumeX is relatively new in the past couple of years, and Adam Loria Culture Coaching is our silver sponsor. There are benefits that come with membership that I was saying. There is a professional development opportunity. Let Vishal and I know if you are a member and you want to know more. And then there's a 15% discount. Agile Austin Workshops is your code for Agile Velocity. If you're interested in volunteering, there are multiple people here, including Vishal, Ben Rogers, and Ned Horvath, who have been volunteers and board members and all that kind of stuff. Please feel free to reach out to contact if you are interested in contributing to the community. Here's a little bit about Vishal and I. Suffice to say, both of us were here. We're coming up on almost 20 years of being a part of Agile Austin in one way or another. If you have questions about Agile Austin and our SIG, which we have here, which is Product and AI SIG, it's the intersection of product, AI, and Agile. Today, we're probably talking a little bit more about product than AI. That's okay. There's a reason we put product as the first word in our SIG because it's first and foremost a product SIG. Right now, we're looking for speakers. Jason is our speaker, our last confirmed speaker. We'll have more coming up. But speaking of Jason, here's the talk he has today. Hopefully you've read the abstract and why you're here today. You can read that too if you'd like to. You can read along with me. His bio is the co-author of, like I said, the shameless plug here. Jason did not pay me to do this, but I think this is a really cool book called Software Product Streams, CEO of Applied Frameworks, pricing, packaging, licensing. Jason will do a great intro of himself, but I know he served our country. He went to Cornell and had a rich history in product and engineering companies throughout his professional career before he got started on doing his own thing. And with that lightning talk, I'm going to hand it over to Jason.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt, and thanks for the invitation. Uh, yeah, I'm not normally from Munich. I'm just here for 3 weeks on assignment. Got here on Thursday, and I've already gotten deep into the weeds with actually doing what we're going to be talking about. How do you help a company with an existing solution simplify their pricing to make more money. As a venture-backed startup, they're in a spot where they really need to ramp up their performance, and what they've been doing won't get them from where they are now to where they want to be. It just doesn't work when you're trying to scale and grow. So it would be really helpful to know. It looks like we like half the attendees are from the Agile Awesome group, but glad you're all here. I want to know from everybody, why'd you come? I mean, put it into chat. Like, what do you need to get out of me here at 10 o'clock on a Friday night in Munich? After I've had, I will admit, somebody mentioned the wheat beer. I will admit there is an empty can of beer sitting over there because I'm sampling every brand I can find. But what do you want out of this time we have together? Just if you want to throw a few words in chat, that'd be helpful. I'll start sharing my deck. Companies with successful products penetrate new ones. How do they build out sustainability? Okay, being deliberate and intentional about sustainable products, learn something new. Met with bears show. Okay. All right. Let me put this into PowerPoint mode, even though I'm not typically a big time PowerPoint guy. So yeah, I typically do like training from the back of the room things. Like if we were live and in person, this would be a totally different experience. So we'll see if we. I'll share a couple of templates as we go, and maybe we can figure out how to do a virtual exercise together. Okay, cool. Thanks for those comments that you're adding. It's because I'd like to shape this to what you need. So, I kicked this off with first the thesis, and as Matt was holding up the book, this is the first 10 pages. Like, what are we trying to do here, and what's the objective? And I actually said here to my client here in Germany, profit in some contexts here in Europe is not a good word. Sustainability, great, but the idea of successful businesses is typically not expressed as profitability. Yet it's what they need, and they know it. And really thinking about the purpose of the business, depending on how you think about all the other famous people and the purpose of business, customer, generate value. Our lens on this is that as product people, we're thinking about this from a point of view or perspective of creating a relationship that is a cycle of valuable exchanges between the business and the customer. And in this context, we're thinking about software-enabled solutions. Profit streams work for software, and we will not guarantee it's going to work for manufactured goods or anything else. We really have a tremendous focus on software, and that includes AI as we think through this. So all the principles that we're talking about will be applying to the agentic product that my client just rolled out. They've been using AI for years to drive their business, but not as an explicit solution. Now they think about, okay, now we're adding this new module, what we would call a profit engine. Oh, how should they think about pricing it? But ultimately, the purpose is the bottom line. How can we invest in the ongoing development of new solutions and the maintenance of what we got and the growth of the company? And in their case, how are they actually contributing back to the community where they exist? I mean, they are deeply rooted here in Munich, and as part of their mission is figuring out how they can also give back to serve the greater good here in the community. And that only happens when you have the excess cash you generate from solid business fundamentals. Because unfortunately, and I'm to blame too, by the way, when I talk about like how terrible daily scrums are. I'm a certified Scrum trainer, and we've created this trap or illusion of business value in structuring these boring user stories as a I want so that inserts on business value. And hey, that's good, right? We've described the business value. We got the backlog. We got the Jira ticket. Check the box. But the reality is that we never actually articulate clearly the solid business case about why are we even doing this? Where did this idea come from? Which customer segment are we going to serve, and what benefit will this ultimately deliver to the customer? Are they seeking this benefit to solve a particular problem? What type of benefit are they looking for? That's what Luke and I were trying to tackle when we wrote the book, because frankly, we're a bit frustrated with the agile transformation journeys to nowhere because we didn't actually accomplish the business objectives. Right, the CEOs, the leadership teams that are looking for great uh, uh, change offered by agility aren't doing it just to make teams feel better about themselves and increase velocity and push tickets around. They are trying to be more efficient, more effective, generate higher revenue, become more operationally efficient. That's what they're actually after with their agility. As a result, we felt we had a purpose to actually write down, well, how do you do that? How do I take this backlog and turn it into a profitable product? So, number one, a software business model is a system. So, as we look at how do we create value, we've got to think about a series of interdependent choices that we make through systems thinking. And we illustrate that as a set of nodes and relationships, starting with the customer. We always want to start with the customer, just like all the other great frameworks out there. But as an example, some fundamental decisions cause other effects and impacts throughout the system. So let's say we are creating a new solution, or we have an existing solution, we're considering a new approach to licensing. We want to license the software on an annual basis, the classic software as a service SaaS solution. Well, that has the first impact that, number one, we've got to be able to capture that in a license agreement. And if you've, like me, are paying for software for your business, you've probably ran into that email that comes in about just about 31 days before renewal, alerting you to the fact that your renewal is coming up and your credit card will be automatically charged, and you've probably got 24 hours to contact them because on day 30, according to the term, the license will renew. And this is your window to either decide to upgrade, downgrade, or cancel, right? And that's all defined in the license agreement. And I ran into that with Zoom. I actually had to read their license agreement, which is 30 pages long, and that's what I do. But it was interesting to see the restrictions and the rights for both parties. Next, we have a technical implication. Well, when does the year begin? Does it begin on the date of purchase? Like, are we going from 25 April 2026 to exactly 25 April 2027? Is that date the date? Is it 365 days? What defines the year? And we've got to probably create that in some sort of database table with the customers and the start dates and the end dates. And then we've got to figure out, okay, what happens when that term ends? What are our concerns around, for instance, data retention? How long do I have to keep that data around? And how long can does the customer have? 24 hours? Do they have 30 days? I just switched our email provider, went from MailChimp to HubSpot. Is MailChimp responsible for holding onto my data for 6 months? Or can they delete it as soon as I cancel? That's all going to be defined, and it really is ensuring that we're in compliance with whatever regulations exist. Of course, sitting here in Europe, GDPR is the dominant compliance issue that we have to worry about. So just one example of the complexity of these choices that we make, and making a pivot, right? Switching from you know what, we're not going to do annual basis. We want to switch to usage-based billing or metering, which all the cool kids are doing with AI right now. Well, that'll have an impact all the way through this whole system. We'll have to rewrite our license agreement, massive architectural change to count everything and make it auditable and so on. But this set of nodes and relationships allows us to then visualize the relationships in some sort of structured representation, which is going to lead, of course, to a canvas. In our case, 10 boxes with the customer on the left. What is the set of benefits that they're looking for that will be valuable to them? How can we identify the return on investment when we deliver the solution to them, and how are we creating the agreement structure to create a relationship with them? And on the right is us, the solution provider. What solution are we going to provide? What set of features are we going to create to deliver the benefits? And then do we have a viable economic model? What's our solution ROI? And finally, we need to worry about any of our licenses. We need the third-party licenses that drive our solution, make sure they're aligned. Because and this is what's presenting a lot of challenges, I think, for companies today, if I'm going to put some sort of LLM on the back end, do I pass through the costs to the customer? Do I sub-license the LLM to them? There's a whole bunch of questions that we've had to answer for a long time. You may not have thought about that a lot unless you've been, full stack product manager. Like I had to worry about our Oracle license and our Crystal license because one, it was a cost. It affected my business model. But two, I had to make sure there were no conflicts, that I actually had the rights to sub-license it, that there was some sort of recognition by the customer when they signed that agreement that, yeah, they recognize that they were, sub-licensing the use of the Oracle license that we were responsible for maintaining. Of course, that was pretty straightforward because it lined up. But there's some weird cases, like if you're using some sort of open source tool, and I bet you are because Apache's probably running somewhere. Some little thing is running Apache in the developer's back end. That needs to be reflected and carried forth through the agreement, which is part of the compliance relationship. So that's the canvas. And we always start in the upper left with the value. So our clean definition of value is the benefits the customer receives less their total cost of ownership. So that includes everything that they require. And we just having a discussion today, right down the street here about, well, it's not just the cost of the license. What is it going to take for the customer to maintain the solution? Do they need somebody to do admin configuration? Is that half a person? Do they need 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, or is it 10 hours a month? How does that factor in? Some of their clients don't want to use their cloud solution. They want to do their own installation on in their own environment, which is fine. That's one of the options. Well, that means they also are going to carry AWS expenses. So all these costs add up from the point of view of the customer, which become part of the value equation that we need to acknowledge and know about as product leaders. So going further, when we start thinking about this, and frankly the stage we're at now, is we're learning a lot about the customers by analyzing their benefits. And the two key questions are, number one, what's the dimension of value? And the second is the magnitude of the benefits that they receive from the value. So we look at that first as tangible benefits. Those are our favorite, and they're number one for B2B solutions. I don't know if we've got any B2C people here, but there's only a few B2C solutions that will provide tangible benefits. My favorite example is TurboTax. Like most people not only use TurboTax to save money so they don't have to get someone else to prep their taxes, but they're also looking to optimize the refund, right? So I'm going to increase the money in my pocket. If I spend $25 or $39, whatever it is for TurboTax, the expectation are going to help me find more deductions, put more money back in my pocket. The only other ones you might think about, there are some pretty cool B2C solutions that like may help you reduce your energy costs, energy saver type things. B2P is business and professional. LinkedIn's a good example of that. If you pay for LinkedIn Premium out of your own pocket, that would be B2P, right? I pay for that to network to find my next job. And that may be tangible too. If I'm looking to get a better job at a higher salary, there may be a tangible benefit there. So anything that increases revenue or reduces costs would be tangible benefits. And like buying an EV truck, why if I'm a plumber and I run a plumbing company, I got five vans, I'm going to upgrade them all to EV. Well, why would I do that? I don't want to buy gas anymore. I'm going to reduce the fuel consumption costs, maybe get some government credits or rebates. And we don't want to neglect the intangible benefits either. All of that, uh, uh, all of this, the set of benefits that are hard to quantify. I want to feel more confident. I want to feel less stressed. Want to be happy and have fun. All valid. In fact, may apply to B2B solutions just as much to video game, which pure intangible benefits. Why do we spend money on video games? Well, they're fun. They're challenging. I want to be challenged. I want to accomplish something. There's value there that's hard to define, and that's including brand. When you think about, why would I buy an Apple Watch over a Garmin watch? Well, maybe I just want to be cooler and have that luxury factor as part of it. And it's usually the number one consideration when you think about B2C software choices that people make. They're looking to do something and accomplish something um, that's unrelated to cost or revenue. So when we think about analyzing customer value, we use benefit cards, and this is just a simple example. Very specific benefits. There may be dozens of benefits in this case from my example here, which I'm calling the CRM awesome.ai. The mouthful, terrible name, this product, but they're serving, as a CRM, sales and marketing. And one benefit they look for is I want to do higher conversion based on intent. So somebody lands on my website, and because they're on that page, I can assume they are intending or considering making a purchase of some solution I may offer, right? So this is going to drive more purchases. Now, the best case is I can actually model out now the magnitude. Well, that's going to increase the revenue per transaction. And I'm going to base that on the measure of completed sales, i.e. conversion. And what we're always striving to do is build out some equation for this. As much as possible for the tangible benefit, every one of them has its own equation. So number of conversions versus the divided by the number of visitors times the average selling price. That's my equation that I can use. And now, why do I do this here? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, is going to help me establish the price ceiling as I accumulate all of these, thousands or hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of dollars in benefits. Well, that would be the maximum price I could ever pay, I could ever charge. Of course, they'll never pay 10 million to get 10 million back. They want to pay a million to get 10 million. Right? So there's some, economics here, but I got to know what the ceiling is before I can set the price somewhere else. And this is going to contribute to that. Also, this type of equation is what I'm going to use to fit into the customer ROI model. So you can start seeing the system, even at this early stage, start to emerge that by identifying the benefits, quantifying them, I'm starting to build into other blocks in the canvas. So far, so good. I'm not looking at chat, so I want to see if there's any questions that I need to answer as I take another swig of water. Anything there?
Not
Yeah,
nothing.
Jason, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, Matt. Can I chime in with a quick
Yeah, please.
comment?
I was
Very
going to
quick.
summarize.
I especially love, yeah, hello, Jason. Max here from Austin. Yeah. I especially love the fact that under the magnitude piece, you have called out potential value be measured. Like, how can it be measured? The challenge I've always had in all my corporate America career and everything is that even when I speak about customer value and everything, people throw out KPIs. I'm like an OKR and that's okay, fine. Like you measure it in whatever way, but you've got to measure the value delivered. And a lot of times it's a perception that the customer or client or like end user has a value and everything. So there is that fact of being potential value. Like you're not sure, until you actually measure something. And it could turn out to be very different from what was intended. But still, that aspect of measuring something post being used.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
so actually, sorry, Jason, but Max brings up a great point. One of
As
the things,
always.
yes, always, always. So the question I had was to continue with that thought process. Generally, a lot of, especially if we're talking SaaS, there's going to be features, right? So you add features, features, features. And then when you try to have that same conversation, hey, what is the magnitude of the impact? And, how do you express that as a formula? That's very hard for a product manager to come up with to say, hey, by adding this feature, I don't know how much more I might be able to make or how many more customers I might get. That's one. The second is the flip side, where sometimes you add features or you do things just to make sure you don't lose customers. You're not sure, but you do. So how might someone, and that's where, a lot of product managers would be like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Uh, so the first response is there is a uh, life cycle consideration for representing how mature the solution is. And if I could teach you the whole book in an hour, which is impossible, I explain that we've got this idea of this being when we go live and launch, where everything we're doing up front is an investment. We're spending, 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 and then we launch here and we start generating some revenue, and slowly but surely we go like this. So if
Mhm.
I'm way out here on the maturity curve, to your point, and say, well, I'm Miro, and Miro, I'm astounded they haven't raised their prices more, but they're starting to, right? So they add their cool new AI sidekick, and they do what everyone else is doing, like sort of drug dealers. Hey, try this out for 30 days, see how you like it. And 30 days later, say, aha, this is now going to become a paid add-on at whatever price they set.
Mm.
Now, how they come up with their pricing, I have my ideas. I haven't consulted with them, and I haven't yet to meet their pricing people. But I know I'm a Miro partner. I'm trying to get there. But that $10 more per month that they're wanting to add on to our little investment, I've said no so far, by the way. But that's one thing that they're trying to do. Now, from our perspective, we'd back into that. I would back into it. It's like, well, what benefit do I get from that sidekick? What is that? What is the ability to organize and summarize 25 post-it notes on the screen worth to me? There's probably
Mhm.
some calculation I could put into there for. Well, if I tried to do that myself, it'd probably take me an hour, and I'd probably make a lot of errors. But the AI can do it in 30 seconds. It's kind of cool, but it also saves me a bunch of time. There's some time savings, and we write about it in the book about how you got to think about the economics of time savings. Is that time actually reused more purposely, or am I just wasting it, not doing anything valuable? But that's really the mental model we've got when we think about mature solutions and adding the next feature. But you're right. I may find that I'm just adding features, but I'm not changing the price. It's a retention play, which is how I characterize what you said, Vishal.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't worry about it. I may not raise my prices all the time just because I added a new feature. And frankly, I don't know if there's no expectation to product managers I'm working with here that they are going to be able to quantify new features one by one. What I do want them to be able to do is be thoughtful at least twice a year about whether or not they need to make a change to their pricing.
Mhm.
Because if they don't, Vimeo is one of my favorite products out there. They sent me like this apology letter. Said, "Oh, whoa! After 6 years, we're finally raising our prices." I'm like, "I can't believe you guys have waited 6 years. You've been doing it every year."
And it sounds like you don't have to do this for every feature. You might do this per release or something like that
Absolutely.
as a
Hey, look at all
as
the
a
great things
package.
we've done in the past 6 months. Now we're raising the prices. Or hey, here's your new release. Not only are you going to read the release notes, you better because we're now going to charge you $5 more per month per user. I mean, that might be the
Mm.
case.
Okay.
Kind of seeing a little bit of that behavior now with like Claude and OpenAI in a bit. They're a little crazy right now in what they're doing, but they can go fast and they're delivering tremendous value, so they can do a lot of different things.
Hmm.
And we're going to go along with it because we love the experience,
Thank
which
you.
is the benefit of having deep pockets and building good stuff. So I keep making dots because I'm still annotating. All right. Um, so we're going to skip the activity, but I'm going to give you the benefit card anyways because let me escape out of this and find a chat. And then I got to find the finder and drop you two things. So I'm going to share, since you're all here live, you get the benefit card live. If I can get my mouse to drag. Oh, come on. Killing me here, Apple. All right, there's a benefit. Unable to send due to admin restrictions. Womp,
Hmm.
womp, womp.
That's not
Okay,
on our side, is it?
no worries. I can show you later.
Okay.
I'll give you a PDF later, unless you can switch off what I can share in here. Unless this is a corporate one. Is it a corporate Zoom?
This is a paid for Zoom.
Yeah, you should be able to. Not
Should
Yeah,
be
I
sure.
able
tried to
to,
drag it
but
in
I
and it
can
said restricted.
make, I'm just going to make you a, no, I don't want to change the host, but you're a co-host, so you should be able to do it, Jason. Is it just the URL? I could type the URL.
No, I'm literally trying to put a PDF into chat. What do you
That
do?
that might be restricted.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
So let me just share what it is because after the workshop, it's going to be the same thing I just showed on the screen, um, but you can make where'd it go? So this is a fillable PDF. So if you want to use these, you can type away and make 20, 30, 40 of them. But I want to be able to give everyone them when we're done. And there's a link. You can go to my website and download them. I've got a link all prepared. But you just fill these out and run wild with them. Now, what we did, I mentioned Miro. We did, let me go back to the deck. Is that the one? Yeah. Um, Early on, after we published the book, customer benefit analysis was the uh, first big template that we wanted to create in the Miroverse. So, what you'll find if you're a Miro person, even if you're not, you can go to Miroverse and still, use it for free and try it out. Same thing I just showed, a bunch of benefit cards, a little bit different format. And what we do is, as we're, some of them may be validated and we actually have the data, and some of them we may need to go prove. We may have assumptions. So there's a little bit of a Kanban-y, I shouldn't even say it's Kanban, it's not close. There's some tracking columns here for what's been validated, what's been invalidated, and what we're still exploring. So then we can get to the next part, which I'm going to show you in a second, the feature benefit mapping or solution mapping. And if you get this, you'll see the extract of the customer benefit analysis pages from the book, right on the canvas, and that's the link to get to the Miroverse template to do this. Now, next question is, are we actually building the right things? And the way we think about that is, once we've got the benefit cards identified by segment, so my little buildings here, these icons that our designer came up with represent a segment. So one segment is looking for these 3 benefits. Okay, this segment's only looking for these 2 benefits. And it's obviously simplified. I wish it was this easy of like 3 benefits to, it's like usually like 20 and 30 and 40. But the visualization we want, and this is where the product hat comes on, let me find the feature that delivers the benefit. So this feature serves this benefit for this segment. This feature serves 2 different benefits for both segments, right? But I've got some orphans here. Why is this on the backlog? Kill it. If I can't find a benefit for the feature, this one was probably somebody's bright idea that has absolutely no connection to any customer segment or benefit that they want. Right? So these are the candidates for deletion from Jira. I'm a big believer in deleting. not archiving, not something else. Just clean it out, get rid of it, because if it really does prove to be something you need, it'll come back anyways. I say the same thing when I'm product owner training, by the way, for my product backlog. So we go through this solution benefit mapping for a couple of reasons. One is that it does allow us to flag these orphans, but secondly, it helps us start thinking about packaging. This is probably one of the biggest challenges we have. We have a great solution that serves multiple segments, but we don't want to sell the same features to the same customers. And I think we've fallen into the habit of 3 options on a website, good, better, best, priced the same way, and all it is like, here's everything you get with a good solution. This is like the basic, and then you go to better. Everything in basic plus these 5 things, and then I go to premium, and it's like everything in better plus all these other cool things. But why? Like, who do they serve differently other than the price? And that's what we're trying to fix here, of saying, hey, you're a small business, here's your package. If you're a solopreneur, here's your package. Completely different. Now I can identify what I need, not by the price, but based on what I need and what I want to solve my problems and serve my ultimate benefit as a specific individual in a segment or specific customer in a segment. So that's what this is all about. And then we would, again, if we were live, I'd have you play around with this. But as we think about the idea of value and the canvas, it is constructed very deliberately, not just by the vertical customer, solution, monetization in the middle. This also has a layer at the top about solution sustainability. Everything I just talked about was thinking like a product person about the benefits and the quantification of the tangible benefits, how I map to the features. In the middle, this we haven't talked about is the value exchange model. And this is not the pricing model. How am I going to exchange value? If it's a term based on time, it's time-based access. So anything related to subscription, all I'm saying is how are we going to exchange value, right? Slack is a great example, right? All I want from Slack is to be able to communicate asynchronously with anyone I want in the company whenever I want to. Well, I should pay monthly for that. It makes perfect sense. Imagine if Slack was trying to bill me by message. I was concerned about message count. That'd be ridiculous. Transaction. That'd be silly. Stripe, on the other hand, makes perfect sense for a transaction value exchange model. I only want to pay Stripe when the transaction occurs. That's the first layer. Pricing then is the next layer, which we'll talk about in a moment, which is also related to economic sustainability. How we actually create a profit, how we go to market and present the return on investment to customers, and how we have a sustainable business model before we get to the last layer, the contractual relationship for all of our benefit. So from there, the big issues is kind of what I just talked about a moment ago. We have roadmaps and backlogs that are based on opinions and guesses, and they lead to a bunch of waste and things that frankly are distracting that could lead to spending money to develop things that actually no one will ever use. Next is making decisions without enough information. So part of our job is to keep gathering data as much as we can about the industry, competitors, customer needs. And the more we can talk to them, the better. And then I just told you the long, lengthy rant about good, better, best, instead of actually thinking about pricing for segments. And then just this incessant drive to hit numbers, causing conflict and debate. Right? When we get this structured right, we don't need to put pressure on sales to hit the number, right? Ideally, we want to create the value perception in mind of the customer, so price isn't the problem, right? We should never lose a deal based on price. So from there, really, this is the final set of questions you can answer, and it'll be in the deck that y'all can download, but it's a little complicated, but it does show all these horizontal relationships and the questions we're trying to answer through the analysis. And this is a multi-week collaborative effort. It is definitely a team sport. Product is the hub. And I'll still say product is the quarterback here to the whole show, or the captain of the team, however you, whatever metaphor you want, sort of driving it. But imagine everybody you got to get on board: sales, marketing, finance, legal, maybe leadership, right? Potentially customer support. Customer success is going to be a key group here with the team I'm working with here in Munich. All of them have a part of this to make it all work together effectively. I mentioned the value exchange models. Time-based access tends to be the big one. Metering is becoming a big deal now since we're talking so much about usage-based billing, and there is a reason for that because we do want to ensure we don't have a runaway customer consuming all of our LLM credits and driving our costs through the roof. Because it is a new world. It used to be relatively stable what the run rate was for a software company. It's kind of smooth, right? We're paying 10,000 a month AWS, and we're supporting 1,000 customers, and we can scale another 1,000. No big deal. The cost profile is a lot different with AI now. So when we think about the pricing model, it is also based on this whole idea of systems thinking, starting with strategy. And notice how long it takes to get to the actual number. First, I got to get the value exchange model. How are we going to provide value, and how's the customer going to pay us for that? Now we got to make a strategic choice, right? How are we going to position ourselves relative to competitors? Are we in a penetration environment? Do we want to come in low, really attract a lot of attention, get a lot of quick wins, and then raise the price later? Are we going in competitive? Are we going to do a value-based sale? All price strategy. Then we have structure. This is defining the segments and the attributes to define the segments and the fences between them. And we had this conversation today. We don't want the customers in Europe able to access the special pricing they're doing in Asia right now. They're trying to grow in Asia. It's a big market, but they've got to create the fence to ensure there's no way anyone outside of Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia can access the same pricing that we're offering to them. That is a fence that's defined by the structure we've identified. Finally, we get to the price level. What are we actually charging? Stripe per transaction is, I think it's 20 cents, 30 cents per transaction plus, or no, it's 2.9% plus 30 cents. I think something weird like that. That's the specific. So they chose the transaction value exchange model. They have effectively a competitive strategy because everyone's about the same. And their price is, like I said, 2.9% plus 30 cents. Why 30 cents? I don't know. But finally, we want to have policies, particularly for B2B. Price policies are huge. If you've been in product a while and worked with sales teams, one of the most damaging things they can do is negotiate themselves out of profit by offering mega discounts. And we want to create policies that establish the discipline to maintain the integrity of the pricing that we've spent so much time figuring out. So big pricing mistakes to avoid is cost plus. If some of you may have been in that conversation, hey, our development costs are X and we want Y margin, that's the price. Well, the problem there is just like the cartoon. You have some customers are going to just be thrilled because they would have paid you 2 or 3 times more. They're getting a right deal. And the downside of that is not in the cartoon, which is that price you just set may be too high for some of your customers. That would qualify if you actually did something a little bit wiser with your packaging and your pricing. The second, this isn't as much of a big deal anymore. I think people are being a little bit more careful with new startups that, what allowed Amazon to go crazy and not be profitable for a decade just doesn't work anymore. I don't think there's enough, confidence in VC-backed companies to let them just try to gain share, and worry about profit later. I think we actually need to start looking at profit early. And there is a whole movement for more responsible, in a lot of cases, bootstrapped type companies that are building responsible business models up front. And finally, you can't just simply say, what would you pay for this? You need to be a lot more sophisticated and ask more powerful questions, use more effective techniques. We have 3 of them that we wrote about in the book. One of them is conjoint analysis, which is probably the most comprehensive. And in the middle for me is Van Westendorp pricing meter, which asks four questions, one of which is, at what price would this be too expensive for you to buy? At what price would this seem too cheap? You can kind of dial in the sensitivity of customers. If you ask 100 people that question, you're going to dial in a pretty solid range of what people would pay by just framing the questions differently psychologically. There's an example here of the impact of discounts. The higher the discount, the longer the sales cycle. This data is a bit old. It's from 2023, but I saw their most recent report, and it's about the same. You can see how much further you extend out both new purchases and renewals. So if I'm only discounting, between 8 and 10%, right, I can close in less than 10 days. All right. Same for renewals. Hey, you've been a great customer. Hey, we want to renew, but we'd like to discount. I'll give you 4%. They'll close in 10 days. If they're negotiating out further, it just extends the sales cycle. And customers will know. They'll smell the discount and they'll draw it out. And that also results in poorer performance. So the top 10% of salespeople only discount about 4%, and they close 26% of their deals. The bottom 10% discount 4 times more, so up to 16%, and their close rate is 42% lower, which means they're probably only closing about 13 to 15% of their deals, which is terrible. This is just a signal of just really bad pricing policies. And I think as product people, it's our job to at least lead the conversation, make sure that the leadership is acknowledging it, and that we're working with sales to set something reasonable. For example, hey, sales reps, if your customer demands a discount, you're authorized to offer up to 7.5% without any discussion with your boss. If they ask for more, say, gee, I'd really like to help. Here's tactic one. I can't offer you higher than 7.5% discount, but maybe I can give you a free, month of premium support. Or I can offer you, one-on-one training with a, solution engineer. Like, think about all the options and things you could add to the deal instead of discounting. And we write about that a little bit in the book. Not that I'm pushing the book too much, but there are strategies to be more effective at guarding profitability, but still adding a lot of value to the deal that you're negotiating. So fences and policies are what we talk about when we're thinking about this. And fences are literally just to ensure customers in different segments can't take advantage of you. And then policies are the rules that govern how you go to market. And the goal is to be very consistent and transparent. This should make total sense to everybody, the customer and to your sales team. So finally, to close, the big principles that we always end with is this idea of fueling sustainability through profit. It's definitely a system, not just a number. You've got to evolve pricing over time, both based on regular reviews, but also through triggers, internal and external triggers, like, hey, our competitors do something, we need to respond, or there might be a regulatory change that causes a change, which may be an external trigger. And then we've ultimately got to get to a profit stream where we have revenue greater than our costs, our solution ROI. And finally, it's definitely a team sport. Like I said, product is the hub, but we need sales, marketing, all of our other partners to make it all work. And all the goodies, no freemium ever. No freemium. Free trials, no problem. Freemium is bad. Freemium sucks. Never do it. Okay, Dropbox is still paying millions to support millions of free accounts for no reason because they got themselves stuck there. I'll never pay Dropbox, but I'm sure I'll always be able to access my small volume of files in Dropbox. I just haven't moved to Google Drive for some reason. Okay. That's it. So to do, you can download the stuff there. Everything I talked about, the templates and the deck. I think it might be a different version of this deck, but I can put this actual deck there. There's a link to the book. There's a diagnostic. And I always like to connect with people on LinkedIn. That's my show. Thoughts, feedback, complaints. Who needs money back?
Wait, this
No
was free?
refunds. No freemium and no refunds.
This talk was free, so now you paid with your time, so like the product is you. No, that was great, Jason. Thank you so much for this blazing fast within the time box allowed kind of thing. You can tell you've been in product before. Really great content. I guess one of my pieces of one of my thoughts as you're going through this is how important it is. I mean, you talked about the various stakeholders. Since I live mostly in engineering, how important engineers, and there's this line this has been blurring between product and engineering. Just, use the term builder for some time now, but it's really, I want to say, especially if you're building infrastructure products, like storage is something I've been doing for a long time, but like it whether you're a nascent product, like, and I was doing this at this company, one company back, um, well, I was at Amazon. I was at Amazon Web Services, two companies back, and that was the time of your infrastructure is essentially free. They get the pricing model actually quite right. They did cost plus, which is interesting. They said we're peculiar. We're willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time. But as you were building new things, how important it was at the storage company where I was to work with both product and our CFO to talk about what the COGS was going to be, was going to talk about what EBITDA was. It and where we were in the life cycle of the product and what we could reasonably expect to do. We were taking an on-prem storage and moving it to the cloud, various clouds, and how critical it was to make those, like, because it really was, customers are price sensitive, right? I'm stored, I'm paying for storage. Like, what are the kinds of decisions? And that actually went all the way, like, we haven't written much code yet to do this, but we're talking with our suppliers, namely AWS and Azure, Microsoft Azure, about what types of storage are available, what we can use. We're pushing it into them to say, we're sharing more of our models with them, and same with engineering. Like, this is what our spreadsheet math looks like. And, it comes into pricing calculators, and having engineers look at pricing calculators, and they're like, that's not right. That's not going to work that way, right? All the way through to sort of the austerity measures of late 2022 to today, where cost of goods sold, COGS, is a really important metric to talk about. When you have a, smallish SaaS business. I just got acquired by a large private equity, actually 2 years ago now. And we talked a lot about EBITDA. We talked a lot about COGS. The engineers that are building are making trade-offs every single day that think about that, even before we get AI into the mix. So it's having this be part of our culture. And I get in Europe, like, and you led with that, like, profit is a dirty term, I suppose, in Europe. And it's like, no, it's actually like making a sustainable business that, that serves customers, that serves the investors, the stakeholders, even the, especially the people who build it, and they want to build something of value for long periods of time. So anyway, that's a long rant of that I'm famous for, but like, I love that you're presenting this in a way that's not just about the secret pricing thing. It's like something we should talk about and be very deliberate about.
Yeah, yeah, and the private equity story. There's a reason that they talked about EBITDA from
Right.
their point of view of what they're trying to achieve over their investment life cycle,
That's
and
right.
what they're trying to drive towards. Because all they want to do is turn it to the next buyer
That's right.
at a higher return, right? The
That's right.
earnings.
And it wasn't too different because I was in Austin, and it
Yeah.
was like, oh, we were at little tiny Hyperformix or NetQoS, and then you get acquired by CA Technologies or
You
BMC or
were at
IBM.
NetQoS? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Back up. Dude,
So
what?
well,
When were you at NetQoS?
I was Hyperformix, and then CA Technologies acquired us and
Dude, I
NetQoS.
was at NetQoS in Durham.
Yeah, yeah.
I had that crummy little usage-based billing product that represented 0.1% of revenue. I still stay in touch with Joel, by the way. So
Oh, Joel's awesome, the American CEO. But like, CA was, these guys were doing it. They were like annuity based profit. They were annuity based businesses. And anyway, I guess when I think about it, it's like, I get that business is going to business, and it should. Capitalism is going to capitalism. And it's really important for, also for those who want to build sustainable products. Like, we love our customers, we want to build these things. Profit is important. Like,
yeah,
you have to understand the context, the system, to your point, of which we live in.
yeah.
So anyway, just a good throughout. My question would be like, how do we get more and more people talking about these kinds of things, like more functions within an organization, especially as AI starts collapsing these silos within our organizations, like how do we make it more effective to have these kinds of conversations?
Uh, I think that so for more mature companies, I think an annual review of pricing that falls into the rhythm of the company,
Mm,
whether that be, sometime beginning of Q4, we're thinking about a roadmap, we're thinking about pricing, evaluating, what's happened in the past year, what we've built, how much more value we may have added, or do we want to keep things the same and why? Um, and you've got the book. The first chapter actually connects vision, roadmap, backlog. This idea we use the metaphor of navigating the fog because uncertainties, foggy, but we got
right.
to keep hiking. That's sort of the part of the journey. Um, but that's actually I think how you start the conversation. We're doing some type of uh, either really good collaboration or not so good collaboration to set plans for the year was a great opportunity for a more mature solution. I think
Yeah.
startups and newer solutions should do it twice a year.
Awesome.
Probably sometime around June and sometime around December. Hey, should we make a price change? Is the packaging working? Where are the friction points? Where have we been really successful and where are we stuck? Um, that's that would be my recommendation to start building the bridges. And I think the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more people want to be drawn in to participate. The first discussions even here are choppy because everyone's like, okay, why are we doing this? Why do we need someone else to help us do this? What problems are we trying to solve? Okay, now what's my role? Like literally before I even showed up, to like we want to see everyone's participation in this and what they're going to be doing, how much time it's going to take. Of course, I give them the agile answer, which didn't work. It's like, well, it's very flexible and adaptive, and here's the people we're going to need. I may need them this much some weeks, and not at all other weeks. So like, yeah, we need more. It's a bit German here, Of course, they want to get a little bit more precision, um, but that's okay, right? It's a learning process, and now that we're together, and that's the one thing. This was not working very well remotely. I do think it requires the in-person engagement to go faster to get through it. You're going to get a lot further faster with this pricing group. I don't want to say pricing committee because it may have back into connotation, but pricing group, pricing team, that comes together a couple times a year. That'll work, right?
Well, thanks. I know we're at time. Any other questions from the folks that are here? I'll go another 5 minutes. I know it's late there in Munich.
Yeah, it's 11 here.
Why do we see so many businesses offering so many discounts? Are they just not price optimized, or does it work for some of
Well,
them?
your example is mattress stores. I can't talk to, unless that mattress has some software in it. I don't know,
Oh,
right?
it does now, I'm sure.
Um, yeah, a phone app to control your mattress. Um, no, in some ways, I think it's built into their business model. It's perpetually on sale instead of just saying, "Hey, the price is the price." Sell the mattresses for $100 or $500 or $800 for your sleep number. I think it's a tactic. It's a psychological tactic for consumer goods. And they've kind of made us accustomed to it. I think it's less frequent for software enabled solutions to have that type of discounting. You may see some promotional discounting, like hey, of course, um, you may get in the mail the LifeLock, Norton offers for discounts to attract new customers. I think that's more promotion as opposed to a B2B relationship building where you're not going to have the same type of discounting all the time.
I had a quick question. I know we're late, so I'm okay if you need to drop off because it's 11. My quick question was, how do you reconcile, on the one hand, hey, never lose a customer on price, but on the other hand, hey, don't keep discounting just to keep a customer. But-
How do I reconcile it?
Or how would we, are there some best practices on how to reconcile that sort of
So
mutually exclusive kind of thing, right?
yeah, there are some different schools of thought on negotiation. You get the Chris Voss, FBI guy, and his perspective, and I've heard some counter examples to the idea of never splitting the difference. Um, I actually think it's about creating win-wins in a relationship. And we literally wrote this down in a book. Never give a concession without getting something in return. So the sales training or the position we've got to take as the person in negotiation of, I can offer you X in exchange for Y. Classic example. Okay, we can give you another 5%, but you need to give us your logo in a case study on our website and in an interview and in a published video.
Yeah.
Will you do that? Well, yeah, we can do that for another 5%. Great. Let's close the negotiation. That's just one example, right? I mentioned one earlier. Well, we're gonna if you pay early, we'll give you a 3% discount,
Right.
right? If you extend your term, and let's take this from a 1 year deal to a 3 year deal with right of cancellation after 2, and lock it in exchange for the 5%. I mean, there's so many different tactics that we have to change the dynamic of simply just cutting the price.
Right. Okay.
And that's really I think the fundamental idea is to never give without a get
Yeah. I
drives
think that was my
everything. And
takeaway
you
too.
can be
Yeah.
so
Sounds good.
creative when you think like that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That makes sense.